Okay, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Committee of the Whole for Monday, March 27th, 2017. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Present are Mayor Marion Galbraith, Deputy Mayor Keith Hedrick, Councilors Jill Rusk, Stephen Sheffield, Lawrence Garish, Finance Director Ron Uhas, Clerk Deborah Patrick. Excused are Councilors Andrew Elvento and Conrad Heed.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the sewer use fees for non-property taxpayers. Deputy Mayor Hedrick. This came from your committee.
Yes. This is something that we started looking at years ago, and it's evolved to where we're looking at all the fees for the non-property taxpayers. And there is a study. Part of what comes out of this is the authorization of funding so that we can execute this scope of services. There's a couple things that they're going to do to help us determine what the cost is going to be, and then what the benefit to the city is. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
And then one of the questions that came out of committee was when they Raft Tillis originally came in, gave their presentation, their phase 2 portion of this was they were kind of guessing between 12 and 25,000.
Right.
Would they anticipate a lot of work being done in-house on our side? So what they did with this proposal is they did not to exceed and to include all of the tasks that they felt to get this from going out to the next step into implementation.
Right.
So it's a not to exceed proposal, and they've included 7 different tasks. And if you want me to go through those tasks with kind of their prices.
Everybody has them, but if you
Right.
would like.
So I can kind of give you the
review.
dollar amount that goes with each one of the tasks. So the first one is the sewer utility and user charge implementation, and their estimate for that is $4,635. The database development is $10,250. The rate structure analysis is $8,700. The biggest portion of it is the rate study and rate setting, which is the $23,420. A rate and utility enterprise fund ordinance adoption is $2,760. Tools for customer service is $2,720, and the customer outreach part is $8,075. With this proposal, it is a not to exceed, so if there are things that we decide that we do not want them to do and that we would do them, they'd scale back, or they can move their time around. And if it comes in where their hours are less than what they anticipate, they're only going to bill us for what they did. It's just a not to exceed. And just kind of to give you an idea, in the 2017 budget, 27.3% of the taxes are for the PAF in the 2017 budget.
So the reason that everything's in here now is because with the water treatment plan, with the water treatment plant project underway, with changes of staff, we have had changes in the billing department. We have some of our finance people will be retiring, one at the end of the year, and that's going to be an adjustment. We're hiring somebody to come in and kind of go through the transition, but we will not be able to do the tasks in-house that we originally thought we were going to be able to do, or he assumed we could do when he gave us that $25,000
Right.
price. So this is the all-in. If we can, if there is an opportunity to break it back, we will. If he doesn't spend all the hours that he estimates there, then he won't charge us as much. But that's a not to exceed, so if he does go over, he's still not going to exceed. So do you want to talk a little bit about where this money would come from if the council decides to go through with the study?
So we've talked about a couple different places for it. One being putting it in the 2018 budget, which was kind of the first place to be looked at. However, we're still waiting on the insurance outcome for the PAF. Assuming that everything goes kind of the way that we feel that it's going to be covered by insurance, that's going to open up this year's contingency. And we can actually get this project probably started before the fiscal year ends, which then we could pay for it out of this year's contingency, barring the insurance piece all works out like we think.
Do you think we'll know that by the time that this would be voted on? Because if we decide to go forward, you'd probably want to vote on it in April. Will we know the likelihood of of that insurance? I don't want to vote on it not knowing where the money's coming from.
Understood. I will follow up this week and see kind of where it was. The last that I had heard was they were having a meeting on site with Hartford Steam Boiler and Karma as a joint, the two carriers. So I will follow up to see what the outcome of that on-site meeting was.
No, that
Questions or
would be good. No,
comments from the council? Yes, Councilor
No,
Gash.
I-
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was a hand.
No, sorry.
No, I agree. I wouldn't want to vote on this unless we knew exactly what was going on with the contingency money.
Right.
If we don't know what's going on with the insurance, I'd rather hold off until we know.
Do you want to move it to the agenda of a meeting, of the April 3rd meeting if we know? Pending
Pending.
that information?
Yes.
yeah.
And then if we don't, we'll pick it up again on the April, would be April
17th.
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 Okay, is that all right?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So we would need a motion to move it to a meeting pending the information on the contingency fund.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is donation requests. You have a donation request from Subvets. They are asking for, well, they have given you options of what you might want to consider. What number is that? 624. So, they have, if you wish to play, there are, well, there are sponsorships, I'm sorry, there are sponsorships. There's a $50 lost diesel boat. That's kind of sad.
Sad.
$75 to $100 business sponsor, $100 to $199 fast attack, $200 to $299 boomers, $250 hole in one, $300 to $500 Virginia class.
I'm not going to be offended by the fact that my husband was always on fast attacks, and that's lower than boomers in Virginia class, but
We have the money in the account. We have, I think the only request we've done out of this is Art on Groton Bank.
And we did the one for
And
children's.
Riverfront, right, the Children First Groton.
Yep.
So those combined out of $5,000 that we have for each year, that accounts for 2,000 of it.
And there's roughly 150,000 of undesignated in that economic.
No. Out of that 5,000 each year,
Well, just
is
saying,
put aside for donations,
in that
right.
fund itself, there's money in that fund.
how much money is left in the fund?
In that fund that where we
The
use that
5,000.
5,000, there's
Out of the 5,000, there's 3,000 left.
Okay, thank you.
And that's until June 30th, but
Right.
you always have the option of taking money from the Community Development and Beautification Fund, but you could do the highest level here if you wanted to, and do the 500 for the Virginia class. Anybody here been on the Virginia class? So that seems safe then. Oh darn.
Has anybody been on?
No. Did you serve on a Virginia class?
No.
Okay, good.
No, but
I've been on a Virginia
Oh,
class. I just want to make
so
sure.
have I. Oh, yeah. No.
So we would need a motion to put this on the agenda for the meeting of April 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say,
Will that be in the amount of $500?
in the amount of $500, yes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have the purchase of a Ford Utility Interceptor for the police department. Sergeant Masucci, would you just come up and sit beside Ron Uhas?
I'm going to grab a chair.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Sergeant Mike Masucci, I'm here on behalf of the chief. Can't make it this evening. So the chief has advised me that he currently has $29,000 in capital reserves for a vehicle purchase. And he would like to take advantage of this year's vehicle price. So We already have a prisoner cage, which was purchased for a vehicle last year, but that vehicle became a supervisor's vehicle, so the cage was not needed. So he already has a cage for that part of the expense. And he'll reuse the light bar from another vehicle, which will be coming offline. And he believes he can find sufficient funding to outfit the rest of the vehicle. And he also wanted me to let you know that there was no purchase of any vehicles last year. So. And if any other questions about the car itself, I'm happy to explain it or anything like that.
Questions for Sergeant Masucci?
And this is gonna be the same as the SUV that we've.
Yeah, it's the SUV vehicle, yes.
Same as what you've been,
Right, the
Reason, right.
SUV vehicles are, they're very useful, yes, definitely.
Yes,
What do we do with cars that we take offline?
they generally are auctioned.
Auctioned.
They're
Okay.
stripped of everything that's identifying and they're auctioned. Any other questions? I think we've talked about putting, as we auction for now on, putting that money into a vehicle reserve account. Because we don't
Right.
budget for that, for what we get from the auction, so that if we start putting it into a vehicle reserve, we might be able to have some money there.
Fantastic.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we need a motion to put this on the agenda, this resolution on the agenda for the April 3rd meeting.
so move it to April 3rd.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. Thank you very much,
Thank
Sergeant
you.
Masucci.
Thank you, Sergeant.
The next item on the agenda is the Long Island Sound Blue Plan Stakeholder Event. And this is a request to co-sponsor an event at no cost. There is a letter that should have been in your packet from Sima Eben. So they would like us to share the event details with our members via email and newsletter, post it on social media, on our website, send few personal invitations to key players, so we would send them to the legislators, et cetera, and someone to attend. So, and they would like to be able to use our logo on the event's promotional materials. If this is acceptable to you, we would put it on, actually for this one, because there's no cost, I think if this is okay with you, we'll just go ahead and do it. I don't think we need to have a vote on this, but I would like to have your concurrence since we'd be using the city's logo, et cetera. Are there any objections?
Could you just tell a little bit more about what it is?
What I have is here, it's a public event about marine planning and the Blue Plan process. It takes place on April 25th at Yukon Avery Point. They'd like to invite us to participate as a co-host. The evening will begin with the Connecticut premiere of the documentary Ocean Frontiers: 3 Leaders in Ocean Stewardship and the New Blue Economy, followed by an overview of the Blue Plan. This is a plan for the conservation and environmental health of Long Island Sound, and discussion of issues relating to Long Island Sound. So
Yeah,
it's a marine, basically a marine ecology event.
yeah, good, thank you.
It's a great event.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Right, certainly in our backyard, and Dr. Eben is certainly knowledgeable in this area. I first met her on the Harbor Management Commission, and she is extremely knowledgeable in lots of things, but particularly in this area. So I am for it.
So no objections?
No objection.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next item on the agenda, for which you have no packet information, is the Small Harbor Improvement Project Program. So this is, I'll give you some background. I think we've talked about this before. So the Small Harbor Improvement Project Program is a program of the Connecticut Port Authority, whose goal it is to support the development of municipal projects related around harbors. So we discussed this at the Economic Development Commission, and we decided that we would like to apply for a grant that would allow us to do the following. That would first create a master plan for the waterfront property that we have. Currently, there's that one small dock there, but there's the capacity for far greater development there. So first would be to get a master plan drawn. And then would be, so that would be part of what we'd use the grant for. And the other part of the grant would be used to do the engineering that would be necessary to turn that footprint into floating docks, which are much more usable for boats. This is a fixed level dock and is much harder to use. To do the engineering, to do the bid specs, and to get us right up to the point of construction. And then we would apply for another small harbor improvement project program grant for the construction costs. We have contracted with David Provencher of Coastline, who has done the initial work on that site, the bulkhead, the original permitting of this dock, to go ahead and do a conceptual master plan. Now, not the master plan that would be covered by the grant funding, but a conceptual master plan, and then to put together the grant application for us. The reason we're bringing this to you now is because of the scheduling of the grant. The grant has to be submitted by April 17th, which means that the only chance you would have to vote on the grant application will be at the April 3rd meeting. So at that point, you would be voting to approve an application. There are no matching funds required for this. In fact, what they ask for is, in the grant application, is how this leverages existing and future investments. So we have behind us, what was it, Barbara? Was it like $740,000 that we've put into the bulkhead repairs? And because, you know, we did the bulkhead after Irene, so there has already been a substantial investment in this. Barbara, do you want to add more to this?
No, I think you did a very good job. Again, just to make clear, this first phase is just going to be the drawings and engineering for replacement of what is there in that same footprint, hopefully with a floating pier and not a fixed pier. Currently, we have the permission and the permit for the fixed pier. That's not nearly as functional, and it doesn't withstand any kind of storms particularly well. Floating pier would. So then beyond that, where do you go with that pier and dock setup? Do you go out? Do you go the width of the property? And that's what the long-term master plan build out, which will maximize that little harbor to the extent possible.
So the way it was conceived and I should say, when I talk about economic development, it's also economic development with representatives from the Harbor Management Commission. The way it's conceived of is that we would have a conceptual we would have a master plan, but the build out of it would be in phases, so that you would have the first phase getting the engineering, then you actually construct the floating docks for that piece that we have, see how that works, and then, you know, see whether there's more, you know, Connecticut Port Authority money, or where you do the financing to build that out to go farther, and whatever phases you want to do next. But this first part is just focusing on what's there, but turning it into floating docks. And this first grant is just for the engineering. Yes?
And just for clarification, this is the property on Thames Street just north of the water treatment plant. Or
Correct.
Just south of the water treatment plant, sorry, thank you.
North of the old municipal
Right.
building,
Right.
yes, sorry.
The long-term goal from our position would be to have dockage there for rent.
So that's what we have to do in our master plan. That's what would be developed. But the things that we've talked about would be being able to have dockage there, so that if there were people who were coming in for short term, if there were people who wanted to run like a tour boat out of there or something like that out of there, and then we would have to look at in later phases whether we wanted to actually have, you know, marina type dockage, you know, long term.
Yeah, because my next thought was, you know, parking, and I know we have land across the street, so maybe the two would tie together at some point, if that was...
Right, and that is something that the Economic Development Commission is looking at. So what they're looking at is this whole question of how do we use those pieces of property to build economic development with a particular eye toward the marine trades or marine development. So yes, but parking is gonna be, you can't do anything down there without getting some parking. So that is gonna have to be a question.
In
Yep.
addition, we talked about the importance of it being accessible to the public, whether it's to put in kayaks or canoes or to fish off of that pier.
I guess I was looking at it, or hopefully looking at it as a resource at some point in time for the city.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yep, yep.
Well, we had talked about that may, and it's something we're gonna eventually have to get to, that it could be a revenue producer.
Right.
You're right.
I mean, it's a beautiful spot there, and what's already been done is really nice. It looks real nice there.
Well, and part of why we talked about doing it in sections was let's see how the first section does. And then if we get to the point that that section is full with boats and we need additional, then we have phase 2 and phase 3 that we could add on.
Yeah.
And that's why we want the whole master plan to be set up and then potentially only build one pier at a time if that's what the grant money has.
Good, sounds good.
Okay.
That's smart. What phases?
So we would need a motion to put acceptance of the application for a grant on the agenda for the April 3rd meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. The last thing on our agenda tonight is the budget presentation schedule. In order to get all of the items, to cover all of the different departments for the budget, which you will have for April, we're suggesting this schedule here. Now, we've kind of uploaded April 10th because there's not a regular meeting for that night. It is usually a group meeting, and we kind of avoided April 3rd because April 3rd is already a Freeman's meeting. There's a lot going on that night already. So what we would do is we would do our budget sessions over April 10th, 17th, and 24th.
Yep.
Is that acceptable to everyone? We don't need a motion, but
Would we have these budgets to review prior to the meeting?
yes, you'll have them for the beginning of April. So you'll have a whole week before, and you can see them the week before.
Okay.
The budget will have already gone to you.
Good.
Okay?
Now-
Yes?
Now, with the budget meeting on the 24th, will that substitute the committee of the whole, or?
It would be part of the committee of the whole.
Part of the committee, okay.
I just want to refer you to a couple of dates that are coming up. Wednesday at 7 o'clock is the town's budget hearing at the senior center. So that's a date that you should be aware of. April 8th is, I believe it's at 9 o'clock in the morning. On Saturday, April 8th will be the town council's review of our police and highway budgets. So those are some dates you should have. And then, as I famously got wrong last time, but we'll have it right this time, April 15th is the Easter egg hunt. Don't be late.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.